Hello guys, and welcome to this week's tutorial on ProRPA.com. Today, as you might have seen on the blog post itself, we'll be covering a few major topics. Like, I would say these constitute the the basic fundamentals of the RPA software, of Blue Prism, or any other RPA software, or any programming language as per se, right? So what we'll be doing is we'll be going to the Process Studio, and we have already walked through it in our last two blog posts, the Process Studio and the Object Studio, so we're not gonna go again into it. We can create the new process, or up to us, we can also use an existing one like the one that I have here. And I'm gonna talk about first and foremost the control bar. We have like a few options. Once we have created a process flow, which is like the RPA bot, right? Then we can run it from here using the go button. It's like this play button on the recorder, right? Or any like media device that you guys may have. And we can also change the execution speed. We can change it to fast so that our bot runs like at the fastest speed or the slowest speed or at a normal speed. I mean, totally up to you, right? When we are doing it in the production environment, usually we go with the fastest one because efficiency matters, right? The overall intent of having the RPA bot is for us to work for is to get the best possible output. But at the same time, we may wanna, if the applications that we're working with might be like a little slower to respond, then we can keep them normal or something. That's totally up to us. Then the stepping activities as well, which we'll be, learning about this more as we progress in our blog posts, right? But I'll give an overview after a few blog posts as to what these stepping activities are. We can reset and press and go to restart the process flow execution by first resetting it and pressing the go button here. We can check for any validation errors that we may have here, and so on, right? You can always play around with these options. They do, make your overall experience of interacting with the process flow diagram or the Process Studio in general more efficient and optimal. Okay, so we'll be talking about our first activity. I took this out, whatever it was, and the first stage, as we call them in here, right? Because last week we discussed about the stage panel, right, where we have all these stages. So first stage that we're going to talk about today is the decision stage. If you guys have any experience in creating the flow charts, we have exactly the same graphical representation of a decision box as we have in the Blue Prism program, the RPA application. So what decision stage does, it helps us to decide the execution path of a process flow. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's figure that out. So we can add an expression in here. An expression could be like, is 2 greater than 3, right? And I'm saying that I'm checking two numbers, right? It's always good to have a descriptive name, and it's also good to have a description as well, but this won't be displayed. The name would be displayed would be available on, our main process flow diagram itself. So it's 2 greater than 3. We can also validate and see if this expression syntactically makes sense, which means Blue Prism is able to, understand it, comprehend it by clicking this validate, and yes, the expression is valid. So we hit OK. And now it is one of those few stages where we have more than one outbound links. So by outbound linking means I'm connecting here, right, using the link stage, and I'm gonna copy the end stage, because a process flow diagram or even an object diagram may have more than one end stages, but they all do have one start stage for sure. So what is gonna happen is, let's say I clicked here, right? Then you automatically saw that we got a yes option, and in here no. So what's gonna happen is, in this decision box, when our compiler or whatever it is whenever it will come in here in this stage, it will evaluate the expression, like is 2 greater than 3 or whatever the underlying expression is. That's what is written here, right? Logic, 2 is greater than 3. And if the result of that expression evaluates to true, then it will take this execution path. Otherwise, it will take this execution path. So this is a very simple program, but of course, that's not like how it should be. So with yes, we might have totally separate activities underlying in here after the expression is evaluated to true. And similarly, if it is no, then we may have separate activities altogether. A quick example would be, say, okay, so you're trying to log into an Amazon web page, right? So you tried the login ID and the credentials, and you want to check if the login was successful or not. If yes, then you can perform the other operations that okay, do this, do that, search for this particular option, add this item to the cart, blah, blah, blah. Could have been anything. If you're not able to log in, you may want to go back, try the login credentials again, or send out the email to the concerned user saying that, oh, sorry, we are not able to log in, or to customer representative, whatever is your, the process that you're trying to automate, right? So that's what the overall gist of using a decision stage is, right? To make to make a decision, and based on the evaluation, or based on the result of that expression, based on the result of that condition, your execution path will be chosen. Okay, great. Now the next stage that we're going to talk about is calculation stage. I'm going to take this out, or let's probably just remove it. If I took it out of the start stage, it doesn't make any sense. It's of no use to us, because anytime when we start off a program, actually I should have probably even run it once. So let me link it again. Although it's not a good practice to link them like this, or like this is looking so weird, but it's okay just to see if it works or not. And you see there are no errors right now. That means syntactically, logically, it is all good. So if you run this, it always starts from the start, and no, 2 is not greater than 3, so it took the no node. This is the no route. That's what was taken from here. Okay, all right, so let's take this out again. And you always have to make your programs or the process flow diagrams as beautiful as possible, because you have to always look professional and make it comprehensible to other developers as well. So this was not a good practice, but at least to show the working, it gets the job done. All right, next we're going to talk about calculation stage. So what calculation stage does is, it is pretty similar to the decision stage, but in here you add some, you can evaluate the expression, and the result would be stored in a separate data item. We'll be talking about data items in just a few minutes, but data item would be like a variable. So we can always create a data item by clicking here. If that doesn't work by any chance, it's totally fine. Just get a data item from here, right? Let's name it as result. Let's name it, or let's put the type as number, and hit OK. It doesn't, we're going to show you what it does. And we can store the result in result. It's always good to use this, because when you're typing the variable, the data item name, there's a possibility you might miss a few alphabets or something, and it would error out. It would say that this particular data item doesn't exist. So either ways, and you're performing the addition operation. So you're just putting 2 plus 3, and the result would be stored in the result variable, the data item. And let's use another end stage, and then finally just click it, link it. So I'm resetting it, pressing go. Once you do that, you see the result value is 5 now. That this shows the current value of the data item, right? So that means the overall calculation went fine. You can do a lot of arithmetic operations, right? The mathematical computations, and there are stuff for string operations as well. Another good part is that you have a lot of these functions provided within here itself, right? Like let's say you want to do plus. So you want to just add the operand. Just take this out for a second, right? 2 and 5, and then just click on paste. So it will automatically create the expression for you. This is an amazing feature embedded within the Blue Prism application itself. It comes really handy, because these numeric operations, I understand these are pretty okay to use, But when it comes to environment functions or for date functions, then like you want to add a few days to a particular date, you can do that. That becomes very, very easy and helpful, right? Instead of you remembering all the correct syntax for each and every expression, this feature is amazing. Okay, so that's what calculation stage does. Do some sort of computation, some operation on the on variables, on data items, or on static numbers like 2 and 3 that we used just now, and storing the result in a variable, in a data item of similar data type. Okay, so let's take this calculation out as well, and let's get to variables now, right? Actually, we're probably going to use it again. Now, data items, this week's last topic. So data items, as you have just seen, are like the variables which hold data for you throughout the process flow diagram execution. So what do we mean by that? It means, you know, any number, any date, anything could have been there. It could have been a password information, it could have been simple text like ABCD, it could have been just time span, it could have been an image, it could have been a binary number or a flag which results to true or false. And like, a flag, you understand the flag status, right? So do you want to give a flag whether it's okay to proceed in this direction or it's not okay? So that sort of stuff. It will only holds value as true or false. Boolean is what we call them logically, right? So we have discussed about the data types, or we have given a very basic detail of different data types supported in the blog article as well, so you can check that out. But these are like the major, like the text and the number and the date time. These are the major like the data types that we use within the Blue Prism application. But of course, there are other features as well, right? So once we have this value stored, then we can perform computations and we can store the result, like as we showed in here in the store result in a field, by choosing the correct data item, and the evaluated expression result would be stored in there, right? So let's take a quick example before we go further. So we have a data item. Instead of because see, this is 2 plus 5, which is very static. It's always going to give you 7, but you may not know what the current value of a variable is, right? Because let's say you want to get the current system date and time. Then what you would want to do is you would want something like give me a second. Right? So, I mean, the variable's value can change over a period of time depending on what sort of computations have been performed on that process diagram, right? So let's see how it turns out. We're gonna change a few things in here, and this is gonna be getting current date, something like that. Okay, and here you got the current date, but you want to use this and see if it works. The expression is valid. So what it's gonna do is, this is a predefined function. This is a predefined Java function which you can use to get the current system date and time. So I mean, just an example sake, right? Because if you were programming this statically, right? By statically, I mean like the example that we had for 2 plus 3, that always results in 7. But in here, we want the current date and time from the time of execution of the program, the dynamic content. It's not a static content. The static content would have been if I had given the current date and time when I'm developing the project. But we want like at like 5 years down the line, if I'm still running this project, it's still gonna give me the date at that time, not the time of development, which would be like 5 years from then. So let's link it in here. and you're going to see the difference. We are going to reset it, we are going to run it, and there it is, 2018, 9:20, and this particular time, 2:30 a.m., whatever, right? So that's how, I mean, you can get the static content, or you can use data variables for. This is a very quick example, of course, but there's way too much we can do. We can take two variables like variable 1 and variable 2. I've shown this in the blog article for this week, and we can either do the division operation like variable 2 divided by variable 1 and store it in a result variable, a result data item, I would say. That's the correct terminology for Blue Prism. So we can store the result in, of that expression, which is variable 1 divided by variable 2, or vice versa, whatever. And similarly, we can see what the current value of that result is. And you can also, once you have ended, before pressing the reset button, you can open it and you can see that the current value has changed. So even if I would have set anything as the initial value, it wouldn't have mattered in this case. But that's not always the case, because you may want to start off, let's say, a loop. You may want to start off with 0, and you want to do it a finite number of iterations you want to perform, right? So you may want to start with 0, but you want to increment it using some operation or something like that. So those are the operations. Those are the different use cases of using variables. We are thoroughly gonna use cases in. We're thoroughly gonna use the data items in our subsequent blog posts. So I need to make sure that everybody gets very good familiarized with this concept. And I guess if you have a programming background, then it must be a piece of cake for you guys. If it is not, nothing to get disheartened about. It's all about how you are grasping it now. And try some more use cases, right? Try to add a few days. I'm sure if you have the Blue Prism RPA application, try, and I also showed you how to use the predefined functions, syntax and stuff. So take the current system date and time and add a few days, and then print it out again, right? In a separate variable or in the same variable, totally up to you. And show me what the future date, we'll probably put it as a future date as the data item. That would make more sense, the name. And then show me what it is, right? Add 20 days to your current date. So, or 20 hours from now, it could be anything. Those are the sort of use cases that I want you to come up with and start building bots for yourself, so that, it would be like the best practice. Rather than doing it exactly as being told, it's always a good practice to come up with your own stuff and start building, right? All right, this is it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Quite a few things, very fundamental, very basic, but really, really important. And if you liked it, please do subscribe to the ProRPA.com blog post, and also to our YouTube channel and the Facebook page with the same name, ProRPA, for a thorough learning of RPA, right? All the chapters and everything. Then you can check out the CRISPR Learning book series, which is available for UiPath and Blue Prism on Amazon across all domains, whether it's India, United States, or Australia, everywhere, you name it. And for the video tutorials, which again is a very interactive way, like the way we are doing now, you can always check out Udemy and Skillshare. Those are two of the major websites. We are also in talks with others, but let's see how that turns out in near future. So just feel free, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and send out an email to info@prorpa.com, and I'll be more than happy to address as many concerns as possible. Awesome. Thank you very much. Have a good one, guys, and happy automating. Bye-bye.